Deep beneath the contested waters of the Indo-Pacific, a quiet discovery is starting to change big strategic conversations above the surface. What first sounded like a routine technical update, a new natural gas reservoir, has quickly turned into a story about power, security, and the future of Southeast Asia. At the center of it all is Malampaya East 1, an undersea gas find just east of the Philippines' most critical energy field. You can't see it, but its impact is already showing up in military planning, diplomatic signals, and regional positioning. For Manila, this isn't just another energy headline. It's huge. For years, the Philippines has relied on the original Malampaya gas field to keep the lights on. Since the early 2000s, it has powered major plants across Luzon, supplying electricity to millions of homes and fueling industry. But that field is aging. Production has been falling, forcing the country to depend more on imported fuel, an expensive and politically sensitive reality. Then came the January 2026 announcement. Exploratory drilling at Malampaya East 1 struck natural gas, and not just traces. Early testing showed volumes large enough to matter. Officials called it significant. Analysts agreed. Initial estimates suggest the new reservoir could power hundreds of thousands of homes, help steady electricity prices, and extend the country's domestic gas supply. Even more promising, it hints that the Malampaya Basin may still hold untapped reserves, opening the door to future exploration. But here's where things get complicated, because in this region, geography is never just geography. Malampaya East 1 sits in waters that international law recognizes as part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. But those same waters are inside the wider South China Sea, a region shaped by overlapping claims, long-running disputes, and decades of tension. So the moment this gas discovery was confirmed, it stopped being just an energy story. It became a strategic one. Within weeks, the Philippine Navy and Coast Guard stepped up their presence around the Malampaya area. Patrol ships appeared more often. Surveillance flights increased. Monitoring systems were tightened to keep near constant watch over nearby waters. Officials described the move as defensive, a precaution, not an escalation. Still, the message was clear. A senior military spokesperson put it bluntly. Malampaya isn't just an offshore installation, it's an energy lifeline. Protecting it means protecting the country's electricity supply, economy, and future. That mindset reveals a bigger shift inside Philippine defense planning. Energy facilities, offshore platforms, pipelines, and future drilling sites are no longer viewed as simple commercial projects. They're now treated as critical national infrastructure, right alongside ports, airfields, and communication hubs. And that changes everything. Budgets, patrol patterns, and risk planning are increasingly shaped by one reality. Energy security and national security are no longer separate conversations. They're merging into one, and the Philippines isn't alone in this shift. Across the South China Sea, naval activity has been steadily rising. Warships from multiple nations regularly pass through key sea lanes, turning these waters into one of the most closely watched regions in the world. Military activity across the region has been picking up speed. Allied naval exercises are happening more often. Surveillance aircraft now fly regularly along crowded international air corridors, and one of the most visible forces in these waters is the United States Navy. American carrier groups, destroyers, and support ships continue operating throughout the region. U.S. officials describe these missions as routine, freedom of navigation patrols meant to reinforce a simple principle: international waters stay open to everyone. But there's another message beneath the surface. Deterrence. A steady U.S. presence signals that developments around contested zones, especially economically valuable areas, are being closely watched. When American ships operate near places like the Malampaya region, many see it as reassurance for partners like the Philippines. And that reassurance has real effects. Philippine military leaders say joint patrols, shared exercises, and coordinated surveillance have expanded their awareness and reach. For a country with more limited naval resources, these partnerships add critical strategic depth. The shift isn't only happening at sea, it's political too. Under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Manila has been adjusting its foreign relationships. While still pursuing economic cooperation with many partners, the government has placed renewed focus on strengthening defense ties with the United States and other aligned nations. Defense agreements are expanding, coordination is growing, and together these moves show a country positioning itself more deliberately in a rapidly changing region. Defense cooperation is getting deeper. Allied forces now have broader access to selected Philippine bases. Joint training has expanded, more complex drills, tighter coordination, faster response planning. From Manila's point of view, this isn't about provoking anyone. Officials frame it as insurance, a way to make sure the country isn't standing alone when protecting its interests. That same logic explains the reinforced patrols around Malampaya East 1. By visibly guarding the area, the Philippines is signaling that it intends to exercise its rights within its exclusive economic zone. And with Allied forces active across the wider region, that signal carries more weight. But there's a bigger pattern here. Legal experts note that when valuable resources are discovered in sensitive waters, tensions tend to rise, not fall. Oil, gas, fisheries, minerals. These finds often push countries to strengthen their claims with real-world presence. Patrols increase, surveillance expands, diplomatic messaging sharpens. Malampaya East 1 appears to be following that script. From a technical standpoint, though, discovery is only the beginning. Before gas ever reaches homes, engineers must confirm the reservoir's size, study extraction methods, and design major infrastructure. Pipelines, processing systems, possibly new offshore platforms. That takes time, often years. Industry specialists caution against expecting quick production. Offshore projects face financing hurdles, permits, and engineering challenges. Delays are normal. Even so, the strategic effect is already unfolding. For policymakers in Manila, Malampaya East 1 strengthens the case for investing in domestic energy. It encourages deeper exploration and offers a hedge against unpredictable global fuel markets. And for everyday consumers, the hope is simple. More local energy could eventually mean steadier electricity prices. The ripple effects of Malampaya East 1 go far beyond energy. For industry, reliable power could fuel manufacturing growth and attract foreign investment. For the military, the site instantly becomes high-value infrastructure, something that demands constant protection. Public reaction inside the Philippines shows how layered this moment is. Business groups see the discovery as a boost for energy security. Economists point to lower fuel imports. Policymakers frame it as a step toward long-term development. But not everyone is celebrating without reservations. Environmental advocates remind the public that natural gas is still a fossil fuel. Cleaner than coal, yes, but not carbon-free. They're calling for stronger marine protections and parallel investment in renewables. That debate mirrors a global challenge: how to balance growth, energy demand, and climate responsibility. For a country like the Philippines, facing both development pressures and climate risks, those trade-offs are real, and Malampaya East 1 sits right at the center of that tension. Strategically, the discovery also reshapes how the Philippines is viewed in the region. A nation that produces more of its own energy is less vulnerable to outside shocks. It gains diplomatic breathing room. It becomes a more attractive partner for technology and investment. At the same time, controlling valuable offshore resources raises a country's profile in regional security planning. Neighboring governments are watching closely, studying how Manila blends legal claims, patrol presence, and alliance coordination. The broader regional picture adds another layer. The United States continues to frame its role around supporting allies and defending international law. In practice, that means a steady naval presence and frequent engagement with partner militaries, including patrols near major energy routes. China, meanwhile, is expanding its maritime reach. Its Coast Guard fleet is growing, its Navy is operating farther from home, and maritime patrol activity around disputed areas remains active. With more ships operating in tight spaces, encounters at sea are becoming routine. So far, patrols around Malampaya East 1 haven't produced public confrontations. But analysts warn that whenever armed vessels operate close together, the risk of miscalculation is always there. And in waters this strategic, even small incidents can carry outsized consequences.